The crowds are filling up nicely here. Motegi, of course, it's race day across the Grand Prix classes, and this is a nice way to kick things off. And yesterday it was a fascinating race indeed, as the ATC kicked back into life after the first round got underway a couple of months ago in Malaysia, Sepang. My name's Elliot York, and bringing you the action alongside me today is Jack Appleyard here in the commentary box, and we're looking ahead to what should be a fascinating and intriguing battle out there today. As I said, they've not had any wet time on track this weekend at the mobility resort Motegi, so this is going to be very interesting indeed to see which riders can adapt well and adapt quickly to these conditions. And they're all chasing one rider in the championship after yesterday's victory, a second in a row for Veda Pratama. Jack, this should be a very interesting race and a good way to kick things off ahead of the Grand Prix Sunday here in Japan.
Absolutely, big day ahead, and already drama on the sighting lap. As you said, Elliot, these young men have not had the opportunity to test this mobility resort Motegi circuit in wet conditions, and Richie Takahira has already fallen foul to these difficult conditions. Let's see what happened. He's on his sighting lap, he's gone down at turn 3, just as he flicks it left. It looks as though a couple of other riders behind him as well maybe caught out. Takahira, well, he was due to start a little bit further down on the grid. A great shame for him. He was going to be in the middle of row 3, so let's see what he can do if he can get back up on board that Honda machine and then take his place on the 3rd row of the grid. I imagine he's going to have to roll down pit lane, and he's looking at best, a back of the grid start. At worst, not starting whatsoever, and then in the middle, starting from pit lane, but certainly not the way that the young man from Japan, the 14-year-old, would have wanted to start his Sunday morning.
No, we did see and say, didn't we, that these conditions are very, very tricky. You can see the riders coming back into pit lane and emerging from pit lane. They're going to get a couple of sighting laps at this. Obviously, very, very tricky conditions indeed out there, and including the number 7 there on pole, Veda Pratama. As the riders pile out of pit lane.
So 12 laps ahead of us then. If you are joining us for the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup for the first time, then welcome along. Racing is normally tight, frantic, frenzied. It's definitely worth watching, as breakfast is tucked into by those Hardy fans. Looks quite nice actually. Very delicious, 20 to 10 local time, as we see fans young and old packing the grandstands here ahead of what is going to be an exciting day of MotoGP action. In terms of Asia Talent Cup history, well, there's plenty names here this weekend that you'll be familiar with. Next year will be the 10th season, started back in 2014 with Kaito Toba, of course, was on the Moto3 podium last weekend in India. He was our very first Cup champion in 2014, followed the year later by Yuma Sasaki, who joined him on the podium last weekend in India. On pole position today for the Moto2 race is none other than Somkiat Chandra, a man who won in 2016. On the front row for the Moto3 race coming up, Dennis Onju, he won in 2017. And then in more recent years, Tayo Furusato, he won back in 2021. And our reigning Cup champion, Hakim Danish of Malaysia, our first Malaysian champion, is now taking part in the Junior GP. But as you say, Elliot, at the moment, our Cup leader, Veda Pratama, the Indonesian, still a long, long way to go, though. It's pretty hectic from here to the final race of 12 in Qatar in the middle of November. From here we move on to Indonesia in a couple of weeks' time, then a weekend off, then it's Thailand, then we head to the Sepang International Circuit in Malaysia before the final round under the lights in Qatar, where the 2023 Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup champion will be crowned, with Veda Pratama hoping to become the first Indonesian to get that on.
Yeah, certainly will. Few technical difficulties, but we're back up and running, I'm pleased to say. The riders coming in for another sighting lap, so I think they've been given an extra go at this just to try and get a feel for the conditions. But exactly as you say, Jack,
Yeah, in terms of the riders getting a little bit more time, pit lane open for an extended period of 5 minutes, which allows the riders to get out and, as you can see, roll down pit lane and get a few extra sighting laps in. This almost qualifies as a wet practice for the guys. As a result, the race distance has been reduced. 13 yesterday, 12 this morning. So a slightly shortened race distance just to allow. But as you can see, the rain has stopped falling. There's no spray out there. And right on cue, there's our 2016 Cup champion, Somkiat Chantra. It's not going to dry up, I don't think, in the 12 laps ahead of us. But we are due to get potentially a little bit more rain inside the next hour. That's what the forecast says. But as you can see there, the spray is very, very limited. Certainly, there'll be some Moto3 riders watching this quite attentively just to see what conditions are going to be like for their race coming up in around an hour and a half's time.
Yeah, so the riders then getting a feel for these conditions. As we said, we've not had any rain so far this morning. We woke up to very damp conditions outside, but there's been no real threat of rain so far this morning. The clouds have rolled in, but nothing that looks too worrying so far. Several weather apps saying different things, so it's always hard to tell in this part of the world, as the number 9 of Takahiro, of course, crashed on his opening sighting lap down at turn 3, rolls back into pit lane. So hopefully for the number 9's sake, of course, this is his home race in Japan, so hopefully he can get his bike fixed. It looks a little bit damaged on the right hand side there, doesn't it? I think the brake protector lever is hanging off. Doesn't look too damaged overall. Main thing is he's okay, of course, but yeah, some panic stations then will set in ahead of the start of the race.
Takahiro, of course. Not only is he starting from the middle of the third row, Elliot, he's the man second in the Cup standings at the moment. He took the opening victory of the season in Malaysia in conditions not too dissimilar to these. It was a little bit dry. They were out on full slicks rather than the wet tyres we see now, but there were certainly some damp patches out there. Followed that up with a second place, meaning that he was joined to the top of the standings coming into this round 2 of the 2023 Asia Talent Cup. Yesterday didn't go to plan for him though. 6 is not what he would have been hoping as he looked to try and back up that sensational start to the season, and now things have just got worse for him on home soil as well. This is going to be a huge blow to the young man from Japan. As you can see, frantic work immediately going on to that number 9 machine. The clock is ticking. He is A-OK, which is obviously the most important thing, but right now his focus is on trying to at least be able to take up a place on the back of the grid. As you can see, the red flag was out there, so pit lane has been closed. If he can get his way down to the bottom of pit lane, by the time these guys start the warm-up lap, he won't be able to take his place on 8th on the grid. He'll have to start 20th and dead last, but that is a whole lot better than having to start from pit lane or not starting at all.
Yeah, absolutely. 15-point split. Veda Pitama, yesterday's winner, and the race 2 Malaysian winner from Takahiro in second place in the championship. Zen Mitani is a close third, 3 points adrift of Takahiro, but early drama then in the early title chase, of course. Pitama winning 2 races out of 3 so far. He's the rider, that everyone is chasing so far early doors in this championship, and for Takehiro's sake, of course, on home soil. I spoke to the podium finishers yesterday, a couple of them from Japan, of course. Were really, really excited to be racing alongside their heroes. A really exciting stretch of races coming up for the Asia Talent Cup as they follow the Grand Prix paddock to Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, and then the final round in a few weeks over at the Lusail International Circuit in Qatar. Also, for Takahiro, obviously he's only had a couple of corners in these conditions. The other riders have got 3 laps at it, so even if he does start from the back of the grid, his confidence will be pretty low, Jack, and he's not going to be picking his way through the field. You expect a fast rate of knots. So yeah, early drama then. Here's your starting grids. Adaki on pole from Ozawa and Mitani, and Ogiwara leading up row 4. 4 Japanese riders in the top 4. Hafi in P5, Pitama P6, rounding out your second row of the grids. Further down, Fuetizan, Nicholas and Wanmoon on row 4, with Darwisi, Okanuki the wild card, and Mailandri. Putra, Rasaidan and Russo make up row 6. Row 7, and at the back of the grid is Gading and Putra from Malaysia. So as we say, Takahiro looks like he should be starting from the back of the grid. Fingers crossed that will be the best case scenario, because if he has to start from pit lane, doesn't get out in time before the red flag is shown at the end of pit lane, he will have to start from pit lane, and that is pretty much race over from the get-go.
High hopes for this man then, Eamon Adaki, starting from pole position. As you can see, just the one victory to his name. That came at Qatar last year. Can he kick off his 2023 Cup campaign now with victory from pole position on home soil as well? Now we're doing the world of good. But he's got some compatriots joining him on the front row of the grid that would like to spoil the party. Shinya Ozawa missed the opening round of the season due to Red Bull Rookies Cup commitments. He finished runner-up in 2022, so there are a lot of people expecting him to come out this year swinging and be the man to beat. It didn't go to plan yesterday for the Japanese rider, only managing 5th. And then on the outside of the front row of the grid, Zen Mitani, 3 straight podiums to kick off 2023, but yet to taste victory. And keep your eye on the man that has so far dominated proceedings in 2023, Veda Pratama, the Indonesian, the man that leads the standings, second at the opening race in Malaysia, and then followed it up with back-to-back victories, meaning ahead of this one, he's 15 points clear of this man, Richie Takahira, who, it looks like, with these guys out on the warm-up lap, it's going to be pit lane at best for the 14-year-old.
Yeah, we just saw Diego Lozano there, the rider coach for the Asia Talent Cup riders, all working under the same umbrella. He was just explaining what was happening there, probably trying to just calm the mechanics and Takahira down. Obviously, drama early on here for Takahira, and it does look like he is going to start from pit lane. So, drama early on here, not what we wanted to see, as we see Takahira go past our commentary box and out for his sighting lap. There he is, the number 9 rider. So it's going to be interesting to see if he will start from pit lane or the back of the grid, because he's obviously quite a long way behind the pack now. So
he's going to start from the back of the grid, Elliot. I'm flabbergasted that they've actually released him from pit lane, given the fact that he's so far behind the safety car. These guys are halfway around the lap. He's going to have to catch up and pass the safety car, and they're going to have to halt these guys on the grid for quite some time here to allow Takahira to catch up and take his place on the back of the grid. This is potentially a bit of a messy start here coming up. Hopefully not. Hopefully he's got his head down and he's able to catch him up by the time they make the way out of turn 14, Victory Corner, the final corner of this 5-kilometre long Motegi circuit. But he's going to have to get his head down here, because they're already on the way down the back straight.
And this is the thing, they've had 3 laps at it. Takahira's had a couple of corners, so he's not going to be used to the conditions, so he's not going to be going as quick as these guys are, because he won't be as confident in these conditions. So yeah, interesting to try and hear what happens there. We'll wait and see and find out if he pulls into pit lane or starts from the back of the grid, but we do expect him to be pulling up to the back of the grid, and they are, like you say, Jack, going to have to hold these riders who have made their way around the warm-up lap pretty quickly indeed. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Here's a reminder of your championship standings. We've mentioned it already, haven't we? Pratama, a double race winner now in 2023, leading the way by 15 points over this rider, the number 9, Takahira, with Mitani 18 points adrift of the top of the standings. 2 Japanese riders chasing the Indonesian. I spoke to the Indonesian Pratama yesterday, and he was signing autographs and all. So a popular rider already is Pratama, but the riders then have already lined up on the grids, and now they're going to have to wait a good half a minute or so for Takahira to make his way around to the back of the grid.
He's not even in the final sector yet. He's, as we saw him there, was just flicking his way into turn 10. I mean, the green flag has been waved at the back of the grid, but the grid's not complete. I mean, we're going to get underway here, but we're also going to see Takahira make his way throughout the final corner shortly. Lights are on, we're about to get underway.
Lights are on, we are about to get underway here in race 2 at Motegi. I think it's the number 21 of Ozawa who's got the best start. Adaki not getting away well like he did yesterday. But it is the number 2 of Mitani who will take the whole shot into turn 1. We had drama down here yesterday in race 1. It doesn't look like we've got it so far here in race 2. Around the first corner, around the second corner they go. Mitani on the number 2 machine, battling with the pole sitter Adaki, the number 14. Didn't get away well like he did yesterday, but he's rounded the first couple of corners and down the back straight. Very well here as the number 14 as Takahira races past our pit box. So Takahira is underway, we can confirm, but I think it's pretty much race over from here.
In these conditions, though, you get the feeling that just getting to the checkered flag is going to be a result. Of course, we've got 21 runners out there, so all he needs is a couple of incidents and he could pick up some valuable points. Meanwhile, big moves been shown there. Up the inside, in towards turn number 5. Shinya Izawa, the man that started on the outside of the front row of the grid, now up to 3rd. Let's keep an eye on our Cup Championship leader at the moment, Pratama, down in 6th. He's not been able to make any progress so far on this opening half a lap.
Impressive so far from Adaki, starting from pole position. He's one of 7 riders who have been in the Asia Talent Cup before. We have 10 rookies on the grid, so I feel like experience is going to come into play. We can already see some dry lines appearing, so tricky conditions for these riders to deal with. Izawa there, the number 21 Japanese rider. This is his first ATC appearance of the year. Finished 2nd in last year's Cup. He had a couple of wins at Motegi as well, did the number 21, so he knows how to win around here. Just the Japanese riders. They pile into turn 10. Hairpin curve for the first time. Line of turn around there. Just look and see where Pratama is. He's got a decent start on the outside of the 2nd row of the grid. He's held position in P6, so that's good enough for Pratama so far on the number 7 machine. Watch out for him in the latter stage of the race as he builds up confidence. The number 7, he goes around the outside of Fuetizan there, who runs it a little bit wide though, down into hairpin, in the 90-degree corner.
The man on the move on this opening lap is none other than the number 20. As you can see there, up to 5th, having started 10th. Jack Rafat Futazan, the 16-year-old from Thailand. His career best finish in the Asia Talent Cup is 5th. He's already up to 5th, making up 5 places on this opening lap. The Thai rider is flying. There he is up the inside of Ojiwara. Has he been able to sneak his way through to 4th? Not initially, but he does at the second bite of the cherry as they flick right again for turn 2. What a start that is from the Thai rider. Meanwhile, change for the lead. It's now Matama that hits the front.
Here we get pictures then of the number 9 of Takahira. He's just got to get his head down and try and get to the checkered flag and hope he can catch the riders at the back of the field. We're going to get a replay here then of the race start. Takahira not in sight. You can see the number 14 of Adaki got a better launch than he did yesterday. Got really bogged down yesterday as Takahira rolls through pit lane and then goes back out on his way a good half a minute behind the rest of the field. We're going to need some explanations as what's happened there. Maybe, Jack, they sent Takahira out just so he can get a feel for the conditions on the sighting lap and then come back in and roll back out. That's all I can think of.
Yeah, as we see some slow-mo shots. We're only on lap 2, lads. Can we see what's happening on track? As we see the number 21 of Izawa there looking for a big move up the inside as he head towards 90-degree turn for the very first time. Back to the front, and it's still Matani that leads the way then, having taken the lead away from Adaki at the opening corner on the start of this second lap. Izawa settled in to 3rd. Ojiwara's managed to steal 4th back from Futazan, with Pratama still keeping his powder dry in 6th. A sensible ride so far in these tricky conditions as everyone starts to get an idea of what the grip levels are like. That's smart riding so far, you would have to say, from the man that leads the stand-in so far.
We've already mentioned the dry lines appearing here in Motegi, and it could be towards the end of the race all about who's preserved their tyres best. They don't want to be pushing too much in the early conditions because with no rain about, the conditions are only going to get better and better in Motegi here. The dry lines appearing around several places on the track. The top 3 as things stand are all Japanese riders, so the Japanese faithful who have got to Motegi nice and early here for Grand Prix Sunday are enjoying themselves. The number 2 of Mitani crosses the line in the lead, sets the fastest lap of the race, a 2:13.280, pretty much 3/10 clear now of Adaki. Azara in 3rd, also within a second. Fuetizan moving back up to 4th place on that lap is just over a second adrift as we get in confirmation of Nicholas's irresponsible riding, double long lap penalty. And is that who I think it is?
It is indeed. It's the number 9 of Takahira, the man 2nd in the Cup standings. Well, that's his 2nd crash of the day. Crashed on the sighting lap earlier on, now down at turn 14 whilst trying to catch up with the front group. A Sunday to forget for the number 9. As you can see, flicked it in to victory corner, and the rear end lets go. That's a nasty one. Luckily, he was up on his feet, yes, hobbling away, but fortunately okay after a fast one for the 14-year-old. A great shame And a disappointing weekend, full stop, you would have to say, after such a promising start to 2023 in Malaysia earlier on in the year.
Yeah, he was right in the podium fight yesterday, finished less than a second off the podium fight. It all came down to turn 11, the 90-degree corner. 4 riders battling away for 2 positions. Unfortunately, Takahira missed out on the rostrum. But yeah, a day to forget then on Sunday. He'll go away from this weekend and learn from his mistakes and come back even stronger, I'm sure, at the next round in Indonesia. Live championship standings, Pertama still leading the way, but that's going to change lap by lap here in Motegi. Down to 4 points to Mitani, who's currently leading the race, of course. Pertama, though, edging his way towards the front. The top 4 have just broken clear slightly. Fuetizan going with the 3 Japanese riders ahead of him. Pertama then on in a bit of a race of his own at the minute. A little bit of a gap behind him, a little bit of a gap in front of him, but he's just keeping his powder dry, like you say, Jack. Pertama, he's experienced in this class, he knows what he's doing. Takahira taken to the medical centre for a checkup, hopefully just precautionary. It was obviously a nasty crash down at the final corner, coming out of Victory Corner, turn 14, so hopefully Takahira is all okay and he'll be fine to compete in a couple of weeks' time in Indonesia.
It's now Shinya Ozawa that hits the front, but for how long? Look at that, what a move that is from the young man from Thailand. We must remind you, his best ever finish in the Asia Talent Cup is 5th. Not that you'd know it though. Up through to 2nd is Fuetizan. What a ride this is from the young man that started 10th on the grid, up into the leading group and looking to make moves, tries to squeeze through on Adaki ahead of him. Adaki then has a moment, he has to roll off. Meanwhile at the front, it's now Shinya Ozawa. Last time we were here in 2022, Ozawa stood on the top step of the podium, had to settle for 6th yesterday, but he's looking to make amends now and fully kick off his 2023 campaign after missing the opening round of the year.
Nice slow-mo of the riders coming down into turn 11, as we saw a couple of laps ago. Saw plenty of this yesterday. Adaki we saw yesterday getting deep on the brakes, getting his rear wheel in the air and running wide a couple of times down into turn 11. A heavy braking zone here at Motegi. The riders just working out where to brake in these different conditions to the dry conditions we had yesterday. Nice slow-mo shots, but yeah, back at the lead, back in the race. It's still Ozawa leading the way from Adaki pole sitter. Number 2 Matoma has got the better of Fuetizan again. Pertama just on that last lap lost 4/10 to the race leader Ozawa, but as you can see, live pictures, he's bridging the gap to the top 4. He's pretty much there with them now, and with a little bit of slipstream down from turn 10, the hairpin they've just rounded down the long back straight down into turn 11. He's pretty much going to be with the leaders now, so cue the Jaws music. Pertama is lurking.
He's pulled back 0.3 of a second on that lead group in the 3rd split alone, and now he's there. It was an 8-wheeler at the front. I think we can now officially say it's a 10-wheeler. It's 5 riders all fighting for victory with what is going to be 8 laps remaining once they make their way through this final sector. Still Ozawa leading the way from Adaki, from Mitani, from Thailand's Fuetizan, from Indonesia's Pertama. 3 nationalities, including an all-Japanese top 3 at the moment. Those 3 don't need any more impetus, any more motivation to try and take victory here, as once again Fuetizan tries to spoil the party. What a move! Nearly loses it on exit though. Fuetizan, well, he's throwing caution to the wind out there, dived up the inside of Mitani and then thought, you know what, I'll have 2 for the price of 1. Looked to squeeze through on Adaki as well, but fortunately, I think for the pair of them, he gave way. Compared to the guys in front, he is able to get that thing turned so much better, both at turns 1 and 2, then at 3 and 4, the double apex right and then the double apex left. He's just got the ability to really bring it a little bit tighter and squeeze it up the inside and catch the guys in front by surprise. Great riding so far from the man from Thailand.
Yeah, the number 20 on the inside there as we zoom in on your championship leader as things stand. Pertama on the number 7 machine, eyes locked on to the apex. The conditions give us some clear visors. We always love to see it. You could see there the number 20 of Fuetizan, the Thai rider, diving up the inside. 2 for the price of 1, as Jack said, clearly confident at turns 1 and 2 at least to just take an inside line. Chessie Mayalandri, unfortunately, the number 5 rider from Indonesia, has crashed at turn 1. Good to see Chessie is walking away from that. We head to Indonesia next, of course, so he'll be aiming to bounce back on home soil there. We have now a group of 5. If Patama hadn't done it on the last lap, he certainly bridged the gap to the leaders now, and he's dragging a couple of riders with him. Fadia, the number 15, and Hafi on the number 19 machine. You can see there, just bridging the gap and got their radars locked on to the back of this group as we dive down into turn 11 again. Zawa late on the brakes, gets it stopped to the apex, but Patama now is climbing all the way over the back of Fuetizan. He's not going to make a move into turn 12. We don't see that often. Don't see too many riders diving at the inside at turn 14 either. Azara though runs slightly wide, but he's going to still be able to stand up the bike and get the power down. As we power down to turn 1 again, is the number 20 of Fuetizan going to make a move into turn 1 once again for the second lap running.
He does look good on the brakes to Zazawa. Once again, they're able to just about pull level, but he doesn't have to get the thing stopped. Once again, that move from Fuetizan, trying to squeeze it up the inside. Keep your eyes, going to do exactly the same here again as we head up towards turns 3 and 4. Meanwhile, El, you pointed out the chasing group behind. Well, we called it a 10-wheeler a moment ago. I need to get the abacus out because this is a big group at the front. You would have to say there's, what, 9 riders in the lead group now? Potentially even 10 all the way back, or 11, sorry, all the way back to Wan Moon in 11th. He's only just over 3 seconds adrift of our leader at the moment as we see this lead group making their way through the final sector here at Motegi.
Yeah, Zara leading the way, banged it down the gearbox a couple of gears through turn 13, and then they'll flick it right. The famous victory corner here at Motegi, turn 14. How many races have been decided in the final sector here at Motegi? The riders get tucked behind the bubble. Fuetizan on the number 20 there, just plotting his move at turn 1. And as you can see now, back at the front, it's really closed up. We have now pretty much a lead group, like you say, Jack, of 13. Across the line, it was 3.2 seconds split in the top 11 riders, sorry. And it's getting even closer lap by lap as the riders just get a feel for conditions. As the number 15 of Fadia just runs on to the green paint there. We've got to watch out for that. That came into play on race 1, so do watch out for track limits.
Fadia's the fastest man on track, 2-minute 12.180. He was 3/4 of a second quicker than Azawa at the front of the race. He was a good chunk quicker than that lead group of 5, and as a result everyone behind him has been able to match his pace, and that's why it's closed up so quickly. And we've now got, well, I think we can call it 10 rather than 11. Wan Moon at the moment is around a second off the back of this lead group of 10. He's certainly going to be trying to latch himself onto it, but anybody from Adaki, who's now taken over at the front, all the way down to Al Sahuti, our Qatari rider, in 10th, have got a great chance of getting in the mix in this one with 7 laps remaining. We're in for a real fight here. This is going to be a frantic finish with now 6 laps to go. Half race distance complete, and look at that, we told you that Wan Moon needed to pull his finger out. He's done exactly that. The first sub 2-minute 12 lap of this race. He's latched himself onto the back of this group. 22-wheeler at the front, 11 riders all fighting to take victory in our second race here at Japan.
Anyone's game with 6 laps to go. Adaki now takes the lead of the race. The pole sitter, I spoke to him yesterday, and he said he was disappointed to finish 3rd after starting from pole position. Rude, that disappointing start he got. He was in the lead group throughout until Patama managed to break clear. We just zoom in on Nicholas, the Australian. He's taken his double long lap penalty. As Nicholas is just outside the points, so we're going to get a replay here. Yes, we are. The number 12 taking his long lap penalty around the outside of turn 3 and into turn 4. Just straight onto the green there. Couldn't quite see what happened to Nicholas, but he's just outside the points in P16, so hopefully for the Australian sake he can bridge that gap, but it's a big gap, 6.5 seconds. But back at the lead, concentrate on the lead group, 5.5 laps to go. This is going to be a scintillating battle all the way to the flag. Adaki still leading the way as they dive into turn 9, the V corner here at Motegi. Zara on the number 21 machine, look out for him, and Mitani as well. He knows he's still ahead of Patama. He needs to bridge that gap in the championship. It's early days, but it's on home soil, and Matama is looking feisty.
Whilst we're looking at that long lap penalty of Nicholas, I'm not sure if something has happened with mid-pack here, because they were all together. It was 11 riders as one, and now suddenly it has splintered off the back of Hafai in 7th. Ojiwara has lost touch suddenly out of nowhere. Ojiwara now a second off the back of the Malaysian in front of him. At the front, no such problems though at the moment for Adaki. Got started from pole position, looking to convert that into victory here, the number 14. It would only be the second of his young career in this Asia Talent Cup. He's going to be up against him. Shinya Izawa now an experienced hand in this class. He's got Junior GP experience, Red Bull Rookies Cup experience, taken victory here at Japan, of course, as well, which will put him in good stead. But Izawa has got a fight of his own to try and fight off as Sen Matani makes his way through into second spot. And Hideki feels that this is his time to go. The fastest lap of the race set by the number 14. As you can see there, a 2:11.987. He was a tenth and a bit quicker than Matani behind him. He's managed to stretch the elastic at the front. What's that? 2 or 3 bike lengths now, as much as it has been for a couple of laps. This is breaking point potentially for Hideki at the front and Matani in behind. And Matani will definitely know that. He cannot allow his compatriot ahead of him to eke out any more of an advantage, otherwise it may well be game over. Still a long way to go though, 4.5 laps remaining.
This is the point of the race yesterday where we saw Pratama break clear of the pack and eventually go on to win the race by 3 seconds. That, of course, hasn't happened this lap as the riders, it was 2 tenths in the first split. It's down to, well, nothing, as you can see on your screens there. A tenth between them, pretty much nothing, as we get potential confirmation of live standings. Slightly wrong with the graphics there, but Pratama has made his way up into 4th place. There they are. Matani currently in 2nd place, 11 points adrift, but see the number 15, Fadia. That's the second time he's ran onto the green plate on the exit of turn 9, I think, so watch out for that. Potentially
Pushed there, I think, if we're going to give him the benefits of doubt. Looks as though they were about 3 abreast as he came out of turn 9. Didn't really have anywhere to go, but this is a pivotal race, you feel, in the Cup standings. 15 points was Patama's advantage, and despite really not doing anything of note so far, he's very slowly but surely made his way up into 3rd. Not for long though, as Izawa quickly dives back up the inside. But it's been a sensible ride so far from the Indonesian. Was 6th for a long time, allowed the Japanese riders at the front to do the early running, to test out the grip levels, to find out what conditions were like. And now as we get into the business end of the race with 4 laps remaining, he's starting to edge his way ever closer to the front. Ominous signs you feel for Pratama as he looks to make it a hat-trick of wins.
Matani then sets the fastest lap of the race. They're getting quicker and quicker here in Motegi. We did expect that to happen, of course. They're getting used to the conditions. A drying line is appearing, but the riders will be very, very confident now in where they can push, where they have to not push, and where they can certainly find time compared to the competitors. Thought Pratama was going to dive at the inside there, the number 21 of Izawa. Thought better of it that time though.
He's going to have to go soon though, because these leading 2 are just starting to edge clear of Izawa in 3rd. This is a pivotal moment in the race, you feel, with 3.5 laps remaining. The 14 and the number 2 at the front have just got a bit of an advantage there. Izawa knows that, Pratama knows that, and that's why you can see visibly they're trying that little bit harder just to make sure they don't edge clear.
Pratama then trying his best to get through on Izawa. You're right, Jack, it does feel like a critical part of the race. 3.5 laps to go. The top 2 are just breaking clear slightly. Izawa though good into the fast sweeping left-hander of turn 7, a quick left-hander at turn 7, and they flick it through the S-curve of turn 8. Pratama and Izawa have just bridged that gap, so it did look like in the opening half of the lap that the top 2 of Hideki and Matani were just breaking clear, but as you can see there, the number 21 of Izawa, along with Pratama, have closed that gap considerably.
In the blink of an eye, that's how quickly things can happen in the Asia Talent Cup. Just as we thought Hideki and Matani were starting to make the break, Izawa and Pratama close back up and say, where do you think you 2 are going?
Experience playing a part here for sure. Pratama up the inside of Izawa, 2 of the most experienced riders on the grid. Late braking from the number 21 of Izawa. I thought he was going to sling it up the inside of his compatriot Matani there, but thought better of it. But that's a little bit of a sneak preview of what we might be able to see at turn 11. It all came down to that in race 1 yesterday afternoon in dry conditions. I think it's going to all come down to there at turn 11 in a few laps' time.
And now suddenly Fadila's back into contention as well, the number 15. This is a good lap from him. He's able to close the gap up to Pratama, and I must say Futazan as well has done a good job. We've got fastest laps of the race in order, first for Hideki, then for Matana, then for Izawa. then for Pratama, and then for Dilla. Can you believe it? The top 5 all setting fastest laps of the race. As a 21 and a 7, look at Azawa and Pratama going elbow to elbow, toe to toe on the exit of turn 2. Once again, nearly contact as they get onto the brakes for turn 3. The gloves are off here with 3 laps to go.
They certainly are. 2 and a bit laps to go then here in race 2 of the Asia Talent Cup. Hold on to your hats, folks. This is going to be a spectacular finish. Adaki still leading the way, but Mitani, up the inside of Adaki, not quite this time around, but Pratama is lurking, the number 7. He goes from P4 to P2 in a matter of a couple of corners. The championship leader is starting to pounce.
This is a champion's performance so far from Pratama. Just when it matters, he sneaks his way through to 3rd, then up to 2nd, and then he hits the lead. What a lap this is from the Indonesian. He was keeping his powder dry, and now he's lit the blue touch paper, and he's going to look to try and break clear. And look at that. On the exit of turn 8, he's able to pull an advantage already, and the guys behind you can see starting to panic here because they know that this is Pratama's break for victory.
Mitani knows that he is the main championship challenger at the minute to Pratama, and we've seen Pratama hit the front and immediately pull a good 3-4 bike lengths clear of the chasing pack. Mitani immediately saw that and thought, I need to overtake my compatriot Adaki here on the number 2 machine. He's not going to get some slipstream down the back straight though, down into turn 11. Okanuki, the wildcard rider, unfortunately, and second DNF of the weekend at turn 8.
In the 3rd split alone, he's pulled nearly half a second over Adaki, who's now up to 2nd. For 14 years of age, Vader Pratama has got racecraft beyond his years. This has been a brilliant performance so far. Still a long way to go. There's going to be 2 laps remaining the next time they cross the line, which is going to be in a few moments' time as they exit the final corner. But that's the biggest lead we've seen throughout the entirety of this race. Adaki, Mitani, Azawa, who have controlled this race from the front for the vast majority of it, are going to have to do something quick to stop Pratama from taking victory here.
For 2:10.458, no one else apart from Fadia was in the 2-minute 10s that lap around. He was pretty much a second faster than Adaki, and Mitani on that lap was the number 7 of Pratama, so he has pulled the pin here. Mitani back down to 3rd place. It could be 4th place. It is, no, not quite, down at turn 3, but this is it then from Pratama. He pulled the pin in the last 5 laps in the dry yesterday to win the race, eventually by 3 seconds. Is he going to do the same here? It looks like he's pulling ever clear here in race 2 in the difficult conditions. He kept his powder dry for the first few laps until a couple of laps ago when he hit the front, taking 3 riders in 1 lap in a matter of corners. Half a second was the gap through the first split. It's going to be interesting to see what it is through the second split. Looks like Adaki's made up a little bit of time through the tunnel and out of turn 6 and into turn 7.
This is where he's really, really good, Pratama. Through this 3rd split, which is a little bit more flowing. It's all about corner speed. It's all about commitment, especially through turn 6. You saw just how much he was able to eke out on Adaki behind him as they flicked it right through the brave turn 6 of 130R. And already that lead is starting to stretch out further. This is brilliant stuff from Pratama. Just when it matters, in the crunch moment, he's able to have himself a little bit of a comfort buffer. As a big move comes in behind from Mitani. He must have done the vast majority of leading in this race as he goes toe-to-toe again.
Elbow to elbow again.
Careful, you two, Azawa and Mitani. They are compatriots, but they certainly don't seem to be friends there as they make their way down the back straight.
1 and a bit laps to go. Mitani knows how important these points could be in the title chase. A long way to go, of course, but with Pratama winning the last 2 races and went on his way to winning a 3rd race in a row, Mitani knows that these are a vital last lap. It looks like they're losing track on the podium as well. All that squabbling isn't helping. They need to box clever here to the riders chasing the top 2, and it's not helping Mitani or Azawa now, who has slipped back to P6. Final lap time here in Motegi race 2 in the Asia Talent Cup. Pratama leading the way, but Adaki, look at that, a 2:09.9, 3/10 quicker, and he's right on the back now of Pratama.
That's 1.5 seconds faster than he did on the lap prior. Adaki, when he had to push, when he had to go beyond the limit, he has done, and he's given himself a brilliant chance here. I thought he was going to go the way of Pratama, the way that he's managed these last 3 laps, but Adaki has got something else in mind. What a penultimate last lap that is by the Japanese rider. And now it looks as though it's down towards the 7 and the 14 for who is going to take honours here in Motegi.
Pratama just eking out a couple of attempts there round turns 3 and 4. Adaki though closing up on the brakes, a good braking zone there into turn 5 for Adaki. This is where though Pratama, as Jack rightly pointed out, last time around is very, very strong through the fast sweeping right-hander of 6 and into 7. It looks like the top two are pretty much set. They've broken a good half a second to a second clear. Fuetizan diving up the inside of the 15 of Padilla. No, not that time around. Half a lap to go.
Some big overtaking opportunities coming up. The first of them here at turn 9. Adaki's not close enough. If he can close up though, he may well be able to squeeze it up the inside at turn 10. Further behind, it looks as though Fadilla is making the break for 3rd place now, unless Azawa can try and close up. Pratama, though, when it matters most, has just edged out enough of an advantage here. Getting the drive out of turn 10, absolutely crucial here, because you would say the last, the best overtaking opportunity for Adaki to try and take victory is at the bottom of the hill, turn 11.
Certainly is diving down the hill into turn 11 for the final time. Adaki is in the slipstream, but I'm not sure he's going to be close enough. No, he's not. Pratama pretty late on the brakes. He is going to be close enough. Adaki dives up the inside. He makes the corner, makes the apex. Is he going to get it? Oh, he's gone down. Drama then late on for Adaki. He's crashed out. Hopefully all the riders can avoid him. Pratama and Adaki clash coming out of turn 11. Pratama is going to round the final corner, gets it a little bit squirrely, but he comes round the final corner to win in dramatic fashion here in race 2 in Motegi. It's Azawa who's going to cross the line on the number 21 in second, with Fuetizan in 3rd place. Oh, what drama down at turn 11. We did think it was all going to come down to turn 11, but that was not nice to see. Pratama does take race victory on the number 7 machine. That's good to see. Oh, that was not good at all. Adaki clearly annoyed, and understandably annoyed. He made a good move up the inside, got it stood up. He was a little bit wide, of course, with Pratama taking the inside line. Jack, let's try and unpick that one. That was drama.
Yeah, I need to catch my breath after that one. First and foremost, how good is it to see that Ayman Adaki is up on his feet and walking away, because that was a scary, scary crash on the last lap under the tunnel with everyone full commitment. I've only seen it once, as have you guys at home as well. I think you have to put it down as a racing incident. The pair of them desperate to try and take victory. It was a brilliant move from Adaki so late. I thought he was going to go well wide, but somehow just about got it stopped. And then the pair of them, as they tried to battle for track position to get back across to the right-hand side before flicking left for turn 12. Collision. Adaki, the unfortunate man to go down, and in the end it is Pratama that makes it a hat-trick of wins. He's going to extend out his cup lead as well. Azawa takes second, Fuetizan onto the podium for the first time in his career, and there was further drama a little bit behind as well. We didn't see on camera, but Fadilla and Matani that were in that podium fight have also crashed out on the last lap. Not sure where exactly. Of course, we'll try and bring you news as to what happened there as soon as we have it, but the results stand. It will be Pratama to take victory. A great ride once again. We said that his racecraft was absolutely excellent throughout the race, and in the end it is victory number 3 of 2023 for the 14-year-old from Indonesia. What a tonic that is before heading back home in a couple of weeks' time.
What a weekend for Pratama. 3 victories in a row, and his 2 closest title challengers coming into this one were Takahira and Matani, and have both crashed out. Here's a replay then of what happened. Adaki going up the inside at turn 11, got it stopped, got it kept on the tarmac, and then just 2 doesn't go into 1, unfortunately. Difficult one to call. I don't want to make too many judgments. It was a clean move from Adaki, that's absolutely certain. And then Pratama potentially a little bit too aggressive on the exit, saw where Adaki was, got it pinned going through the tunnel, and then the 2 collided. And unfortunately for Adaki, he was the one to go down. Like you say, Jack, brilliant to see Adaki walking away from the incident. It's going to be interesting to see what decisions come of that.
It is. That's a difficult one to call. As you say, the first move from Adaki, A-OK, a brilliant move. And then they're both exiting that turn 11, trying to get back across to the right-hand side of the track, and it does look to me like it's a racing incident. Last lap, final sector, desperate to take victory, an unfortunate collision. It's one of those where Adaki won't like it, Pratama will. One thing we know for certain though, the top 3 is confirmed. It is Pratama to take victory. ahead of Ozawa and Futazan. Controversial nonetheless, and I'm sure debate will roll on in towards Indonesia in a couple of weeks' time. There's going to be a difference of opinions, that is for certain. But from an unbiased, neutral perspective, the Asia Talent Cup delivers again. What a race that was.
What a race indeed. Yeah, we'll be able to unpack that more in Indonesia. And I'm sure Nadaki, once he's calmed down after the incident, he'll of course be really disappointed. He grabbed a podium yesterday on home soil, was disappointed not to come out of victory after starting from pole position, and what a last couple of laps it was from Nadaki. We thought that Pratama was just streaking clear of the pack like he did yesterday, got his head down, kept his powder nice and dry in the early exchanges, did Pratama, picked his way through the field expertly with a few laps to go, but Nadaki set the fastest lap of the race on the penultimate lap of the race. Pratama set the fastest lap of the race on the last lap, but Nadaki at the time set the fastest lap of the race to close that gap down.
And now, as a result of that, as a result of events, after only 4 races, 2 rounds in 2023, Veda Pratama is 40 points clear at the top of the standings, 95 to his name from a possible 100. It has been the almost perfect start to the year for Pratama, second at the opening round. At the opening race, then victory, victory, victory. Look at that, what an advantage to hold before going to your home event at the Mandalika Street Circuit. Ahead of Takahira, Matani and Ojiwara, it's tight behind, but Pratama has been on a different level in the opening 4 races of 2023. 40 points after only 4 races, it's the stuff of dreams.
The hero's welcome beckons in a couple of weeks' time in Indonesia. Saw him signing autographs yesterday in the Japanese GP paddock. There he is, Veda Pratama.
Get it? Congratulations off Hiroshi Ayama and fellow Indonesian Super Mario Aji. Here it is on the final lap then. Just look at this, from how far back does Ayman Nadaki come? You think there's no chance he's going to squeeze up the inside there, and then last minute he thinks, go on then, let's shove it up the inside, and so he does. At this point here, there's no chance he's getting it stopped, but somehow, despite the front end buffeting away, chattering away, he does run a little bit wide and leaves the door open, but it was a good move. Then the contact was made with Nadaki going down. Race direction saying racing incident, which will put a smile on his face. We saw the face of Ayman Nadaki trackside, slapping his glove on the arm coat. Less than pleased, you can understand why, but official confirmation then. Victory number 3 of 2023 for Veda Pratama.
Certainly is, and by 2.3 seconds in the end after the late race drama, Shinya Ozawa gets his first podium of the season in second, with Thailand's Fuetazan climbing up into third. Hamad Al Sahuti, after finishing out just inside the top 10 yesterday, claims fourth with Hafai, Ogiwara, Wan Moon, Rasaidin and Putra inside the top 9, with Darwizi rounding out your top 10. Nicholas, after a double on lap penalty, claims P11, good points for the Australian, with Russo, Gading and Putra, your other finishers, finishing inside the points. And then confirmation of Adaki, Fadia, Mitani, Okanuki, Mailanji and Takahira. The day to forget, unfortunately, for the Japanese rider, who still sits in second place in the standings, but now 40 points adrift of Veda Pratama, as we're going to get confirmation of now. There it is, 40 points. Pratama heads home to Indonesia with a healthy lead in the title race. Matani, we didn't see what happened to Matani on the last lap, but he went down and crashed out of contention as well. Ogiwara finished inside the top 10. He stays fourth, 49 adrift. Fuetazan, Al Sahuti and Ozawa move up in the standings after their decent finishes here in race 2. Barish moves up 3 places inside the top 10. And a few of the riders falling down the order, unfortunately, after drama here in Motegi. Nicholas moves up 2 places, 5 points on the board now after finishing 11th in race 2, with Pucha and Chavan moving down to P19 and P20 respectively. Time for the podium then here in Motegi. What a way that was to kick off race day here at the Japanese GP. We thought it would all come down to the final lap at turn 11, and that it proved. Drama late on here in Motegi. We'll unpack it more as we get to Indonesia in a couple of weeks' time. But for now, the podium will take place. Thailand's Fuetizan, that is 16-year-olds, bags his first podium. Japanese grandstands filling up nicely ahead of race day here in Motegi. There he is, the Thai 16-year-old standing on the podium for the first time.
Big smile as a result, you can understand why. Shinya Izawa, well, he was victorious this time last year, so there'll be a touch of disappointment for him. But a podium to officially kickstart his 2023. And he's getting used to this by now. Veda Pratama, victory number 3 of 2023. 95 from a possible 100 points. He's going to head home 40 clear. What a start to the season it has been for the Indonesian. We must remind you, we've never had an Indonesian winner of the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. Yes, there's still plenty to go in 2023, but it's certainly looking ominous for the rest of the field. They need to stop the Pratama train from gathering any more momentum.
Certainly is, and like I said, it's going to be a hero's welcome for Veda Pratama going back to Indonesia. Hope he's packed some room in his suitcase for a couple of trophies. I'm sure he did. I'm sure he expected to be standing on the podium this weekend, and it's proved to be a couple of winner trophies for Pratama, and it looks like there's going to be plenty more trophies on the cabinet of the young Indonesian coming into the near future as we get set for the Indonesian national anthem for the second time this weekend. The Indonesian national anthem rings around the Mobility Resort for Motegi. For the second time this weekend. The Japanese fans enjoyed it. They were hoping for the Japanese national anthem in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup, but they've got chances to hear that later on throughout the day in Moto 3, Moto 2 and Moto GP. The riders stand on the podium with the trophies. They'll head off to the interview set very soon. In the meantime, though, we're going to watch the highlights, and there was plenty of them here in race 2. This was the race start. Adaki on pole position, number 14, didn't get away too well initially, but tucked himself into the slipstream down into turn 1 and immediately hit the front. And from there on in, it was a fascinating battle for the lead and for the podium positions. First couple of corners, first couple of laps were all about the riders at the front. Unfortunately for Takahira, crashing on the sighting lap and then going down on the opening lap of the race. A Sunday to forget for the rider, second in the overall standings. That was Marianos Nicholas, the 16-year-old Australian, taking his double long lap penalty. He would end up inside the points. But it was all about the battle at the front. Pratama picking his way through the pack nicely after keeping his powder dry in the opening exchanges. That was his eventual race-winning move, and this is where it all came down to. Pratama versus Adaki at turn 11. Drama unfolding. Thankfully, we can report Adaki walked away from the incident. Pratama well on his way to 40-point lead in the championship standings. A double race victory for the number 7 Indonesian, and next up is his home round in Indonesia alongside the Grand Prix paddock once more. Double victory for Pratama here in Japan. We will see you for more in a couple of weeks' time.
Round 14, a tense and enthralling MotoGP title chase brings us to East Asia for an action-packed and adrenaline-fueled day of racing in the Motul Grand Prix of Japan. 3 successive sprint wins means the momentum is with Jorge Martin.